It's good. I've been filming for my movie all weekend, and I'm really tired. My body hurts. You don't care about that. You just want to know what we think of Justice League vs. the Fatal Five. And this sounds really depressing of a start, but it was a good movie. When I reviewed Batman and Harley Quinn, we did a big, long intro about the history of the DC animated universe, building up to what could have become this amazing, groundbreaking piece of cinema built on years and years and years of dedicated artistic, am I doing this enough with my arms? Integrity? And while I've seen Batman and Harley Quinn about 1,000 times at this point, making all the videos about it, and it has gotten better, it was obviously a disappointment to a lot of people, being the first DCAU return big project that we got in, I don't know, I'm really tired, 2006 to 2017. 11 years. But this movie, Justice League vs. the Fatal Five, pretty much is that return that we'd been hoping for. I'm gonna kind of just go all over the place with this because my brain's gonna go, I can't control what'll happen. There are a lot of people on social media who are upset that this was not the JL reunion that they wanted because it didn't include Flash, Green Lantern, John Jones, Hawkgirl, or any number of the background JLU characters they've come to love, The Question, Booster Gold, The Creeper, Jack Ryder, etc. And instead they've gone and replaced Jon Stewart with Jessica Cruz. They can't just do that. They can't just bring her and Miss Martian into this movie without any explanation. Sure they can. A Justice League reunion movie I'm sure will happen someday, and probably sooner than we expect. But one of the press interviews I was watching from WonderCon with Jim Krieg and Eric Carrasco is they were talking about if they knew from the beginning that this was going to be a JLU movie, they would have a checklist, so to speak, that they would feel like they were entitled to Markov, beyond Markov. Oh, we gotta include this character. Oh, we have to follow up on this plot thread. Oh, we have to, etc., etc. And since apparently this movie started as a sequel to the Crisis on Two Earths, Justice League Doom-iverse, and then quickly became JLU style, the story was already there, so they basically just put the Bruce Timminess as a nice little icing layer on top, and it just became a DCAU movie, sort of accidentally, it sounds like. I think my cat might become part of the video here pretty soon. Yep. So I think the movie actually succeeds where it might have failed a little bit, in that it's a JLU movie that feels like a JLU episode in terms of quality of story, quality of writing, the lack of having to try and be as stuck in continuity as heavily as possible. And I mean, I would say JLU is probably the most continuity-heavy series in the DCAU, but mostly that was the Cadmus chunk of episodes, and I guess I'm comparing this movie to more the final season, just where it was kind of one-off episodes. We're gonna do the Viking Prince, we're gonna do the Legion of Doom, we're gonna do Warlord, we're gonna do Legion of Superheroes. And that seems to be a big gripe about this movie, is that where's Supergirl? There's no explanation for Supergirl. And the only reason I even mildly agree with those complaints is just that the guy that wrote the movie writes for the Supergirl show, so you would think they would at least mention her. But it's not really that big of a deal to me. We'll do all sorts of timeline videos and all that stuff, but the future set segments of this movie could take place before the future set segments of the Far From Home JLU episode. We don't know yet. We're trying to figure it out here. Just calm down, wait. It's less than a week since the movie came out. Just please give us some time here. We'll discuss that in heavy detail, I'm sure, and many other continuity aspects of the movie. In terms of that stuff, I was definitely watching the movie with that in mind. Even when I wanted to not, I tried so hard to just watch the movie once without thinking about any of that stuff and just focus on the movie as a whole, but my brain won't let me do that. It was still pretty easy to just watch the movie. You know, things would come up, the Metro Tower, or I guess the Watchtower in this movie, and I immediately went, yeah, voice actor's back, we've got the art style, it's all there. And then we go to Oa, and Kilowog shows up, and he's the wrong Kilowog model. And I say wrong because I'm talking about he's from Green Lantern, the animated series. This isn't how he looked in Justice League. Again, something we will talk about much more later. But that was the only time that something happened where I went audibly, Oh no. The rest of it was pretty good. Fatal Five was very interesting. They were good villains. I liked Mono a lot. Emerald Empress, good. It kind of would have been good if she had more to do, but there's a lot of characters in this movie, so I don't blame them. It's an hour and 17 minutes, which is actually kind of short when you think about it. Like an average Disney movie is like an hour and a half. As I was watching, I was constantly checking the bar, like, oh no, I'm halfway through. No, there's only half of this left. Oh God. And it reminded me of when I watched the first Batman Beyond episode. I was like, late elementary school. I rented the VHS tape release of it, the Rebirth episodes, and it finished and I cried because that was it. It was over. I mean, that was even 44 minutes or something. I didn't cry when this movie was over. Did I? Times James teared up. Justice League theme playing in the Hall of Statues. Starboy, oh my god. Starboy dying, kind of? That's probably it. My cat's name is Celix, by the way. It's a character from Battlestar Galactica. I think I just like things with the word bat at the start. It was really cool to see reused stuff like the Javelin, the Metro Tower, like I mentioned. Jessica Cruz lives in Portland, Oregon. It's like 2 hours from where I live. That was cool. I guess let's talk about Jessica Cruz's character for a second. In the sneak peek thing from whatever the movie was before this, Reign of the Supermen. Also a good movie. Not as good as Death of Superman, but you should still watch it. They talk about Jessica Cruz being a very emotionally charged character. She has a lot going on. Oh, she's dealing with all this heavy stuff all the time. And yeah, that's true, but they kind of just tell you that at the start. They don't really show you that too much. Obviously, she's dealing with the trauma of seeing her friends be murdered in front of her, and she has to overcome that every day. It's always a struggle, and very relatable to a lot of people. I do like that is a theme in this movie, but I felt like I would have liked to see, how did she get the power ring? Why did it choose her? Obviously she knows Kilowog and Salad, so she's been through training, I guess. Does she know Kat Matui? Does she know Kyle Rayner? These are questions I have. Though overloading the movie with that kind of stuff would have bogged it down, so that's kind of, I'm going off the rails a little again. That's kind of a thing that I think people concentrate too hard on, is where did this character come from? What happened? How did they get to the thing? Bruce Timm has said a year or 3 has passed between JLU and now. We'll have a real answer for you in the coming days. So there's been ample time for these things to happen, and you don't need to see every scene, every moment of everyone's lives. What was I saying before? Oh yeah, Jessica Cruz. We get a lot of stuff about her at the start of the movie, and then she kind of coasts through the movie, and then at the end she has to overcome her great fear and be a good Green Lantern, which, yeah, it was really cool. It was a really neat action scene. It had a lot of, the whole movie had a lot of good action scenes. I guess I would have liked to see a little more of maybe when she, she's stuck under the rocks by Kilowog's dying body, and she maybe has some sort of flash real quick of Kilowog looks like her boyfriend or friend or whoever it was that was dying in the forest next to her, or the guy that the murderer was burying when they came upon him and stuff like that. Just a little oh, remember, because she has anxiety, instead of just hope you remember that about her. I don't know. Maybe that would have been too ham-fisted. I'm kind of just thinking out loud here. I fangirl squeed at Tim Drake and Two-Face. Not so much at Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy because we just saw them in the last movie, but that was cool too. It's really cool to see a JLU story with no bat embargo, no you cannot use Batman characters, mentions of the Joker and, the Gotham news station, all this sort of stuff. Bloodsport was interesting. He's barely in the movie, but we had a Bloodsport in JLU. It's the other one. So now I guess both Bloodsports exist. Miss Martian doesn't have an explanation for why she's there, where she comes from, who she is to Jean, but I'm not really worried about it. Miss Martian, Kilowog, where's Jon Stewart, all that kind of stuff, they bother me until we either get the throwaway line or no explanation, and then I have a couple of days to kind of sit on it and go, it really doesn't matter. And that probably sounds weird because this whole channel is all about why is that Batman costume very mildly different by 2 pixels, but Justice League Unlimited had dozens of leaguers that, if we go by their comic book origin, they start to branch out a tree of Oh, if Obsidian exists, does that mean Jade and Alan Scott exist? Oh, if Sand exists, does that mean the Sandman exists? Oh, does that mean the Justice Society exists? How is Johnny Thunder still a kid in the time period of like a modern day Justice League? Wave Rider, so what future is he from? All this stuff where we never got an explanation for any of that, and yet it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the universe. There's just, cool, there's that character. It only bugs me when they overwrite something that they've already previously established. We're gonna do a cool Hawkman thing by having Herotalic Katar Hall be, you know, our Hawkman in this universe, because like every Justice League season they didn't really know if they were gonna get another one, I think. And then later they just bring in Hawkman anyway, so now there's just both of them. That kind of thing is more of like a artistic integrity sort of thing that I think maybe like, you know, oh, you could have stayed with Galatea being the only Power Girl in this universe and we would have been fine with that. And yeah, now we have the Green Lantern statues, Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner and comic book looking Kyle Rayner and no Cairo, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Timeline and the Willet canon and the Easter eggs and all that stuff, it's coming. So overall, I think it was a pretty great movie. I'm really excited to watch it again. That's the difference between this and Batman and Harley Quinn. I feel like it's a chore that I have to watch Batman and Harley Quinn for videos, and this movie I'm looking for. I can't wait to watch it again. I've watched it twice already. I know Maddie's watched it like 8 times at least. This is the first official DCAU movie, and by that I mean a not Brainiac Attacks, that is not a Batman movie, in that it's not called Batman : something. This wasn't supposed to be a discussion about Batman's colon. Mask of the Phantasm, Sub-Zero, Return of the Joker, Mystery of the Batwoman, and Harley Quinn. And now we finally have a Justice League something. And I think for me, my order goes like this. Sorry to cover up the cat for a second. I can't decide if I like it more or less than Sub-Zero is the main problem. Because Sub-Zero, it's a lot more story-driven, and Fatal 5 is a lot more action-driven, I think. Fatal 5 definitely has its strong story elements. I'll just put it at number 3. Definitely my top 3 is Phantasm, Return of the Joker, Fatal 5 at this point. So good job, you guys. You made it into James Strecker's top 3. That was your goal all along, right? I bet there's something that I wanted to talk about in this review that I have forgotten. I mean, I didn't really talk about Starboy. So stay tuned for many more Fatal 5 videos on the channel in the coming weeks, and I will see you at another time. Say bye to Celix. Say bye. Bye, Celix. Of course, while I was editing this video, I realized I kind of made it sound like we're not going to do videos on Miss Martian or the Green Lanterns or any of the other interesting, possibly fan theory-ish filled subjects from the movie. We definitely are, don't get the wrong idea. Also, on our Patreon, where you can vote for which video you'd like each month, the next several votes are for Fatal 5 videos, Willet Canon, Timeline, Easter eggs, etc., etc. Go there, vote for which one you want each time, so you can see the one that you want to see, okay? Now the video is actually over and you can go on with your life, unless your life involves watching Fatal 5 16,000 more times.